Hey folks, just a brief rundown of what we learned the other night, Adobe Bridge, kind of a post lesson, if you will, just to kind of help refresh what you learned from last week and then also get ready for the next day. So here we've got Adobe Bridge, and a couple things I wanted to point out is I've got an SD card in. I'm going to kind of go through what we talked about last week right off the bat was file structures. So when we've got different files, remember that we've got several different kinds. Here we've got DNGs, JPEGs, and then somewhere on this computer I have got some NEF files. Let's go to NEF. And any one of these would work. And so here we go. So here I've got an NEF file. Now, accompanied with this file is an XMP file. If I'm working with a Nikon RAW file, and if this is Canon, this would be a CR2 file, and you see this XMP file, it was edited in either Lightroom or Adobe Camera Raw, and you see that all of this data, accompanying data, needs to stay with this file. These two are like buddies right here. And so with these two being buddies, if they get separated, then all the edits that I've made to this picture are lost. So just remember that you got NEF, and then we're going to use that program that we called Adobe DNG Converter. And I take those CR2 files and those NEF files from Canon and Nikon, and I'm going to pull that up on the disk. Let's see. There's Anna's laptop. Let's try this again. Take out the disk and reinsert it and see if it pops back up. See if it mounts. We did it a couple different ways too. Is like, let me get back to the desktop. One way that I did that was I went into the file itself, the program itself, and I picked the, I'm still not seeing that card. I picked the SD card. Still not showing up. Let's pretend this was the SD card. And if I hit select, basically what I did is I made sure that I included the images that contain within subfolders. And then I wouldn't save this in the same location. I would save this in a new location. If it's coming from the SD card, which is outside of your computer, you want to save it somewhere inside of your computer. And so a lot of times I will take files and I will put them right on the desktop for easy figuring. And then when I'm done, here I've got my two hard drives. Here's my pictures, video, and music, and here's my backup. So I keep everything on this, and then I back it up to this. And then I also have another backup that I keep off-site. So keep that in mind. So let's go. So remember the DNG converter, not only does it save space, but it keeps both the file and the edit in the same spot. So instead of seeing the CR2 file with the XMP file, I'm seeing one file, DNG, and so digital negative. And notice that your file size is about, I think we found out is about 5 megs smaller, and it's probably relative to the file size, but yeah. The other way that we did this was I went into, let's say this is the jump drive over here, or the SD card, and let's say this was a folder that I created on my desktop. I clicked on the one and I drag it over into here, and then what you're going to do is you're going to double up on space first. I'm going to have my NEF files, and so if I clicked on that miscellaneous folder on the desktop, it would see all the NEFs, and then it would save the NEF files and the DNG files in the same folder until I get rid of the NEF or the CR2 files in that respect. So the more we do that, I think the easier it'll get for folks to get it. It takes some time. So let's talk about, and when we're done, we'll quit. So I've got my, let's say I've got my folder. Here's Leah's, here's family 2017. Here's Martin family pics. Okay, that's the folder structure. Now I'm working on a Mac, not on a PC. But if I save something on the desktop and I saved another folder in the desktop, when I go into Adobe Bridge, I see, and I'm working off the folders, not the favorites. And so the folders, I'm going to zoom in on that. So there's the folders. Here I've got the desktop. Here's that family and engagement folder that I saw. And then here's the Martin family pics. This actually works out pretty good because I need to get another picture for my daughter here. So here I see my files, and within this I see we've got labels, and I've already rated these files, and usually the first thing that I'll do is I will rate them. So if I hit the space bar, I hit the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you can also hit 7, 8, 9, whatever. And when I do hit that, let's change that from a 5 to a 1. As soon as you hit any number, you'll see in the lower left-hand corner this pop up. And so now if I hit 5, boom, it rates it. Zoom out. And I just go through, I hit the down arrow on my keyboard, and I literally just go through each picture, and I kind of preview. And the nice thing is as I'm in this preview mode, if I tap on anyone, I can get a zoom in of this, and I just click and I drag. I'm not doing anything else other than just clicking and dragging around to see anything else. And you can see my my old wrinkly self, Bubba, and my daughter, other daughter. And you can see like stray hairs and everything else. You can zoom in even more. I use 2 fingers to zoom in. There I'm 400%, there's 100%. And then click out of it to see a full screen preview. When I'm all said and done, I'm done rating. I hit the space bar. And then from here, go through. If I find everything that's been approved and under review, there I've got everything. And let's say, let's go back out here. Let's go to no label. Okay, it's got no label on it. You're like, well, Chris, you've got these 5-star. How come there's no other? How come they're not just seeing the stars in there? Well, if out in here, I'm going to do Command 1, Control 1 on the PC. Now I see, now that I've got 2 different ratings, now I see the ratings show up. But beforehand, they were all 5-star, so it didn't need to really filter that out. And this is a filter piece here. So let's change that back. Control 5 on the PC, Command 5 on the Mac. And from here, if I go to DNG image, I'm going to filter out all the DNGs. If I want to get all the JPEG files, I click on JPEG. Okay? And so there's my JPEGs. If I click on the Photoshop document, I also get the Photoshop document as well. Let's uncheck the label. You're like, well, I know that there should be other ones in here. Well, if I uncheck this, there you go. Now I should see everything in there. So be mindful of all these that are checked. Sometimes if you're not finding something, uncheck everything and then start over from scratch. So with that said, you can see that my exposures on a tripod were pretty consistent the whole time. And I can also filter out focal length. I think I should have kept it about 200 most of the time. Focal length 35 millimeters, should have been the same. White balance, as shot, custom and flash. And then you can take a look at some camera raw settings, cropped and uncropped. So it's kind of a nice feature there. And you can do a lot with sorting as you go through. As you can see in my metadata, I can take a look at, this is shot at f4, 1/125th of a second, ISO 400. I don't know if that's supposed to be a scene mode or not, but shot on manual. So, and this is a spot metering, which I didn't really use since it was shot in manual. I've cropped this down from its original size. It's at 300 pixels per inch, and it's Adobe RGB. So that's about all I got to say about that. I have cropped this, and everywhere you see this little symbol right here means that it's been cropped. So let's see. Open in Camera Raw, refine, get photos from camera, return to Adobe Photoshop. Now notice that I'm hovering my mouse over each one of these. So the nice thing about most of these programs nowadays is when you hover your mouse over these, you'll see that you get what it does or what it is. And so it's very handy to do. Keep in mind too, over in the lower right hand corner, right down here, when I click and drag, there we go, I can get my thumbnails into a certain position. So perfect. Now I can move this out a little bit bigger and make these a little bit bigger because my window here doesn't really change that much, so we're good shape there. Other than that, that's going to be the first part on just covering Adobe Bridge and looking around and taking a look at, you know, what you've got in this window. The next part I'll cover a little bit more about what we've gone over in Adobe Camera Raw and kind of go from some simple basic edits. So thanks for watching.